When construction workers were digging up a school playing field in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, preparing to install new classrooms, they hit something that stopped everything. Not utilities, not rocks. Massive timber post holes, arranged in perfect lines stretching over 100 feet long. What archaeologists uncovered beneath that playground is the largest Neolithic timber hall ever found in Britain, and possibly all of Europe. This structure dates back to around 4000 BC. That's roughly 6,000 years old. To put that in perspective, this hall was already ancient when the first stones of Stonehenge were being placed. It predates Stonehenge by over 1,000 years. And what it tells us about early farming communities in Scotland, their organization, their architecture, their social complexity, is rewriting everything we thought we knew about Neolithic Britain. Let's start with the physical evidence. The excavation revealed a massive rectangular timber hall measuring approximately 108 feet long and 33 feet wide. That's bigger than a standard basketball court. To build this, Neolithic communities erected at least 16 massive wooden posts, each one sunk deep into the ground in perfectly aligned rows. But here's what demonstrates true architectural sophistication. The post holes weren't randomly placed. They formed two parallel rows running the length of the structure, with additional posts at either end creating distinct entrance areas. This isn't a simple shelter. It's a carefully planned, load-bearing structure with interior divisions suggesting different functional spaces. Dr. Murray Cook, an archaeologist who worked on the excavation, said, "We've never seen a Neolithic hall this big before. The scale is phenomenal." The site is located at Crathes, just outside the town of Banchory in Aberdeenshire. But here's what makes the location significant. This region of Scotland has produced numerous Neolithic discoveries in recent years. In 2017, researchers found evidence of another timber hall just 9 miles away. What we're realizing is that northeast Scotland had a dense network of these structures, implying widespread settlement and social organization.
Radiocarbon dating of charcoal fragments and organic material from the post holes dates the structure to approximately 4000 BC, solidly in the early Neolithic period. That makes this hall contemporary with some of the earliest farming settlements in Britain. And to understand just how significant that timeline is, Stonehenge's sarsen stones weren't erected until around 2500 BC. This timber hall predates Stonehenge by 1500 years. When this building was in use, Britain was just transitioning from hunter-gatherer societies to settled agricultural communities. Now let's talk about what it actually takes to build something like this in 4000 BC. First, you need massive timbers. The post holes measured up to 3 feet in diameter, indicating the trees used were substantial, likely mature oak or pine. These trees had to be felled, stripped of branches, transported to the site, and shaped, all without metal tools. Neolithic communities used stone axes and fire to work wood. Then there's the precision required. The parallel rows of posts had to be perfectly aligned to support a roof structure spanning 33 feet. Even a few degrees of misalignment could cause structural failure. That means surveying, measurement, and coordinated construction, evidence of planning and mathematical understanding. Each post had to be sunk deep enough to remain stable while supporting not just the roof weight, but also wind loads and the dynamic forces of people moving inside. The post holes excavated showed evidence of careful packing with stones and soil to secure the timbers. Dr. Cook emphasized, this would have taken a huge communal effort to build. We're talking about dozens of people working together over weeks or months.
Think about what that coordination implies. Someone had to organize labor, allocate tasks, and ensure enough food was available to sustain construction crews. That requires social hierarchy, resource management, and probably some form of leadership, hallmarks of complex societies. And here's something crucial. This wasn't built in isolation. Archaeological surveys of the surrounding area revealed evidence of additional structures, field systems, and pottery scatters indicating sustained occupation. This timber hall was part of a larger settlement, potentially the ceremonial or communal center of an early farming community. So we've got this massive 108-foot-long timber hall sitting at the heart of a Neolithic settlement. What were they doing inside? The honest answer is, we're still working it out, but the evidence gives us strong clues. First, the sheer size rules out this being a standard dwelling. Neolithic houses were typically much smaller, maybe 20 to 30 feet long. A structure this large suggests communal use, gatherings, ceremonies, feasting, or meetings involving the entire community. The internal post arrangement indicates the hall had distinct areas, possibly separated by wooden partitions or screens. That suggests different functions within the same building, perhaps storage in one area, ritual activity in another, living quarters in a third. Pottery fragments recovered from the site match styles found at other early Neolithic settlements in Scotland, including grooved ware and undecorated bowls used for food preparation and storage. Carbonized grain remnants suggest agricultural activity, likely wheat and barley cultivation.
But here's what's particularly intriguing. The location itself carries significance. The site sits on elevated ground with clear sight lines across the surrounding valley. That's not random. Neolithic communities deliberately chose prominent locations for important structures, places visible from a distance, marking territory and demonstrating presence. Historic Environment Scotland's lead archaeologist noted, structures this large weren't just functional, they were statements. They said, we're here, we're organized, and we're permanent. And permanent is the key word. For millennia, humans were mobile, following animal migrations, seasonal plant resources, constantly moving. This timber hall represents a fundamental shift. Communities putting down roots, investing enormous labor into structures meant to last generations. For decades, our understanding of Neolithic Britain was shaped by the monuments, Stonehenge, Orkney stone circles, burial cairns. These are spectacular, but they gave us a limited picture, suggesting Neolithic life centered on ritual and monument building. The Crathes Timber Hall challenges that narrative completely. This discovery shows us that early farming communities in Scotland were building sophisticated wooden architecture at scales we never imagined. And unlike stone monuments which preserve for millennia, timber structures decay, meaning we've likely missed thousands of similar buildings simply because wood doesn't survive. Dr. Cook put it plainly. For every stone circle we've found, there were probably dozens of timber structures we'll never see. Wood rots. Only when post holes are perfectly preserved and we happen to excavate in exactly the right spot do we find evidence like this.
That has massive implications. If one school playground in Aberdeenshire hides a 108-foot timber hall, what else is beneath modern Scotland? How many settlements? How many communal structures? How much social complexity have we completely overlooked? And this isn't just about Scotland. Across Britain and Europe, archaeologists are now re-evaluating early Neolithic societies. Discoveries like Crathes suggest these weren't scattered bands of primitive farmers. They were organized communities with architectural ambition, engineering knowledge, and social structures sophisticated enough to mobilize large-scale construction projects. The University of Aberdeen's Archaeology department emphasized, this find fundamentally changes how we understand the early Neolithic period in Britain. These people weren't struggling to survive. They were thriving, building, creating permanent communities. Here's something worth appreciating. This discovery happened purely by accident. The school, Crathes Primary School, needed additional classroom space. Construction crews were excavating the playing field when they encountered the post holes. If the school had been built 50 feet to the left or right, this structure might have remained hidden indefinitely. And that raises an important point. How many similar sites have we unknowingly destroyed? Every time we lay a road, dig a foundation, or plow a field, we risk obliterating irreplaceable archaeological evidence. Historic Environment Scotland now requires archaeological assessments before major construction projects, but that's a relatively recent policy.
For centuries, countless Neolithic sites were destroyed without record. We'll never know what was lost. But here's the hopeful part. We're getting better at finding these sites before they disappear. Ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR surveys, and improved excavation techniques mean we're identifying archaeological remains with increasing accuracy. The Crathes Timber Hall is now protected. After excavation and documentation, the school construction was redesigned to preserve the site. Future archaeologists will be able to return to this location with new technologies and ask new questions. And that matters. Because every discovery like this doesn't just answer questions, it opens dozens of new ones. So here's what we know. Beneath a school playground in Scotland, archaeologists found the largest Neolithic timber hall ever discovered in Britain, possibly in all of Europe. It measures 108 feet long, was built around 4000 BC, and predates Stonehenge by over 1,000 years. The construction required massive timbers, precise engineering, and coordinated communal labor involving dozens of people over months.
This wasn't an isolated structure. It was the center of a thriving early farming community, one sophisticated enough to organize large-scale construction, maintain agricultural systems, and create permanent settlements. And here's the paradigm shift. This discovery forces us to completely rethink what early Neolithic societies were capable of. These weren't primitive farmers barely scraping by. They were building monumental architecture, organizing complex social structures, and creating communities that lasted centuries. The Crathes Hall survived 6,000 years underground by pure chance, preserved in the exact spot where a school would eventually need extra classrooms. How many others didn't survive? How many timber halls, meeting houses, and ceremonial structures have we lost to plows, roads, and construction without ever knowing they existed? We're just beginning to understand the true scale of Neolithic Britain. Every excavation reveals new complexity. Every timber hall challenges our assumptions about what primitive societies could achieve. What's beneath the ground in Scotland and across Britain is a lost world of wooden architecture, sophisticated engineering, and social organization we're only now beginning to recognize. What do you think we'll find next time someone digs up a playground?